may be used for kind of business promotion, further education, and advocacy efforts. However, I want you all to know that your names, faces, voices, none of that's going to be used without your permission. It's more going to be kind of on the education piece on the things that we're speaking to, but just wanted to let everybody know that going into it. So first, I just want to start by telling all of you a little bit about us and kind of why we're here. And then once we introduce our three selves, just super high level, would love to go around the room and get to know everyone very quick. So I will let you know what we're doing there as soon as we are done here. So first of all, my name is Sarah Davidson. My business is Hue by Sarah Davidson. I'm a wedding and event planner based here in the Madison area. And something that I have been working very hard on for the past 9 months or so is regular conversations with our local leaders in Madison and Dane County Public Health, our Dane County Executive's Office, and the City of Madison Mayor's Office to keep an open dialogue between our local leaders and the event community to figure out how we can potentially safely hold mass gatherings again. So I'm in weekly conversations with those groups. I'm also regularly talking with different hospitality businesses all around our county, just to figure out how can we best serve all of you, the people that are planning events in this crazy time right now. Geoffrey, go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, I'm Geoffrey Sandler, and I run a company called Celebrations Entertainment, and we are a event entertainment, event production, virtual entertainment, and hybrid entertainment company. All of those tags because of the pandemic. And I've been in a lot of those discussions that Sarah has mentioned as well, not as high level as she is, but kind of just offering my support and my knowledge of the event industry, trying to help as much as I can. So those groups in Madison that make the decisions of how many people can gather in spaces are able to gather in spaces and trying to work hard to get those increased so we can get back to life. Korrine.
And Korrine.
Excellent. So I am apparently the guest today, right? Been asked in to come in and chat a little bit, share some of my experiences. I am the director of event design at Event Essentials. I've been in the event industry inching on 20 years, quite frankly. With Event Essentials for about the past 7. So I've hopefully put together some thoughts and presentation that will be of benefit to all of you. And I know we'll get to questions and answers. So looking forward to chatting.
Thank you. And I would love to just super quick kind of get to know everyone who's here with us tonight. So I will call out video screens, but when I call your name, can you just let us know? I mean, we'll see your names, but feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know your wedding date, and just super quickly, 5 words or less, what's the biggest question mark you have right now related to your upcoming wedding? So let's start with Sarah and Drake.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Our wedding date is August 21st of this year. And my biggest question is just how many people we're hopefully going to be able to have celebrate with us.
All right, thanks. Let's go with Abby and Kevin next.
Hi, we're Abby and Kevin. Our date is September 18th of this year. And then I think our biggest question is around number of guests as well. I think in my head, I know it's just 5 or less, but specifically, I think like what I don't understand is why like restaurants can be at like a 25 or 50% capacity, but then weddings are being told like 10 or less people. Like that is what I'm trying to wrap my brain around.
That is a great question, Abby.
Not at all.
Thank you. Amanda and Ryan.
Hi, our wedding date is July 17th. Our 2 biggest things are our gathering size and also like comfort around the size, kind of navigating family and guests, that sort of stuff.
Thank you. Shannon and Mark.
Hi, we're Shannon and Mark. I think our biggest question is like, if we're getting married in November 27th. And I think our biggest question is, are we even going to be able to have the number of people that we want? Because it's, still 10 months out.
Mm-hmm. Alicia and Joel.
Hi, we're Alicia and Joel. Our wedding is planned for August 14th of this year. And we're just kind of feeling the same way as everybody else. How many people are we going to be able to have? And yeah.
Thank you. Michelle and Jeremy.
Hi, Michelle and Jeremy. Jeremy has to work tonight. But our wedding is May 15th of this year. So coming up quicker than most, it sounds like. So we're going ahead with a 25-person wedding, but I guess our biggest question is more or less just how to make people comfortable with that and how to communicate all of that. And just really working with vendors at this point, now that we've made a decision to go forward with that amount of people.
Sure. Thanks. David and Kylie.
Hi, I'm David. I'll be relaying this info to Kylie. We have a wedding in May as well, May 1st. I think similar questions, we're probably gonna have 25 to 50 people, we'll see. But within that, I don't know how dancing should best work, food and drink, I don't know.
All right, thanks. And Carly and Andrew.
I'm Carly, and our wedding, we're having 2 separate events. We're going to have a small ceremony on May 15th as well, and we're going to keep it to under 50 people, basically our wedding party and close family. And then our second part will kind of be a bigger reception, which will be on May 15th of 2022. So at this point, we are now under 100 days. At this point, I'm a little bit wondering if I'm going to finish everything. But in relates to COVID, just figuring out how to make people feel safe and just comfortable, because I think we have some people who are like totally careless and then other people who are very cautious. So trying to figure out how to handle both types of people.
Very valid. And I know a lot of people, I think, are experiencing that as well. Well, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves, sharing those. Hopefully, I wouldn't say that we necessarily will get the answers to those in this session, but hopefully we can provide some guidance on what you are working through. And yeah, so what we're going to do now is just kind of go through myself, Geoffrey, Korrine, each have a bit of a presentation kind of in the areas that we are specific to, that hopefully can provide some insight to answer the questions that you pose. And after we're all done chatting, we're just going to kind of open it up for Q&A and have this be conversational. And also, as we're going along, if questions come up, definitely feel free to ask them. Go ahead and drop things in the chat. We really want this to be informal but helpful. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So like I had said, I've been able to be a part of kind of regular conversations with our local officials on behalf of the hospitality industry. So I'm going to do my best to update everybody on this call kind of with what sort of things are being discussed, what could potentially be, down the road as far as the ordinances go, how the conversations have been going, and just, talk about things to keep in mind as you're planning your wedding, regardless of if it's in May or November or July. And there are a couple of things that are different for each of those dates, and then potentially talk about if there's anywhere that we can help you do that as you move forward. So first of all, just where are we at as far as local ordinances within Dane County? Right now, we are allowed 25 people indoors for an event where food and drink is being offered. You are allowed to go up to 50 people, technically, if food and drink is not being offered. In the world of weddings, I just stuck with the food and drink numbers because we know how that all goes. You are allowed to be at 100 people outdoors with food and drink offered. And something that I thought was kind of interesting this time around is if you are under 50 people, you actually do not have to wear masks for an outdoor event. So in case anyone missed that little point in the local ordinances, I know that I did the first time around. This current order is in effect until March 10th. We've generally seen orders come out every 4-ish weeks or so. So I know in the event industry, that's always kind of the date we have in our minds as far as when we could potentially look forward to some sort of change or update is the expiration of where the current order is at. What are we hoping for kind of moving into the future? So, you know, I kind of loved your question, Abby, of the percentage-based capacity. That has certainly been something that the event industry has been asking for a very long time. You know, we believe that events with more than 25 people can still be held safely at places like Monona Terrace or the Tinsmith or, you know, the Sylvie, places that have just a crazy, you know, giant amount of square footage. So that is something that we kind of keep proposing over and over and over again. We'll see if that is taken into account into the future. Another thing that we've really been asking for is a structured reopening plan. It's been a challenge right now having things go order by order because you all know events take time to plan. So it's really difficult for the event industry to see a new order and totally turn things on dime in 24 hours notice. I have an email from conversation from local officials that I just received this morning that said they're optimistic a new order is going to be coming out in the next 7 to 10 days based upon feedback that they've received from the event industry. So, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. I obviously can't say 100% what that means, but they have been saying that they've been listening to what we've been asking for, potentially taking things into account. So, you know, and 7 to 10 days would be slightly earlier than that March 10th mark. So that's kind of what I know looking into the near term future for when we could have our next update. It is seeming from a lot of our conversations that there is just a lot riding on vaccinations this spring for sure. You know, it seems that many people think that vaccines are going about as well as they could. Of course, you know, we all wish that there was more of them so we were able to get them distributed quicker. But the early data that's being seen from vaccinations has been good, and public health has alluded to some future potential form of an order could be directly related to maybe a percentage of the community that's vaccinated or something like that. So starting to get these vaccines out is really doing great things. The other thing that we're kind of keeping an eye on in the events industry is, I don't know how many of you saw, but there's a couple big events that have been announced into the future that we're all keeping an eye on. So there was a concert announced in May at Bree Stevens Field, and Frank Productions, who's putting that concert on, is taking every precaution. They've built a model like this in some of their other venues in Missouri, and we believe that, them being able to demonstrate that we can pull off an event for over 1,000 people safely will do great things. So, as you look into the future, as far as when your date is and how many people will I be allowed to have, I'd kind of at least start by keeping like that 4-week window in mind at a minimum. So for those of you whose date is in May, I'd expect, at least 2 more orders, 2 more hopefully progressive orders to come out between now and May. That hopefully that guest count might be able to bump up a little higher than where it is today. And for those who kind of are in mid to later summer into the fall, personally, the couples that I'm working with in that window right now, I still think it's just too early to make any like big rash decisions, which I know is really, really tough. But I would hate to decide that we need to do something drastic and then, find out that we could actually have done what they wanted to do. Of course, that's up to each individual couple, because I fully realize how much agony it is in planning in a situation like that. But for what that's worth, I'm optimistic about where we could be number-wise into the summer and beyond. So that's kind of a public health front and, what potentially the future could be. A couple of notes just to keep in mind as you're planning throughout this year. First of all, I just want to say that, the Madison, the Dane Counter vendor community is ready to just bend over backwards to do what we can to support you in this time right now. We feel you. We've been going through it for the past year as well. And just please feel very comfortable having conversations with your vendors as far as what you're thinking, what your options can be. Something that I do want to say is I'm starting to anticipate just kind of seeing a little less leniency in moving dates into the future. The pandemic is no longer an unforeseen circumstance or necessarily a force majeure. And every time a date is moved, that is kind of lost business for that vendor. So just as you're thinking about potentially what your options could be, something to keep in mind that we are in a different spot right now than we were a year ago. We're all kind of adapting and, evolving with what this is. Another thing that I would keep in mind is, I do think that masks and distancing are still probably here for some time, maybe potentially throughout the summer. I do think that will likely be one of the last things to go. At the same time, I was very surprised by that, no masks for under 50 people outdoors. So take it with a grain of salt. But I do think it might be better to plan for that to be a thing and hopefully be pleasantly surprised versus having to figure out a last minute floor plan because you're dealing with it just a couple of weeks before your wedding. And then finally, and one thing I was going to mention with like the masks and things like that, definitely talk to your photographers about like masked photos, non-masked photos. So it doesn't like always have to, you don't always have to be reminded that like, yes, my wedding happened in a pandemic because every single photo we're wearing a mask. They're really great at this point adapting to still get you the end result that you want. So make sure to have that conversation. And And then finally, something that I wanted to mention too, and this is something Korrine might go into a little bit. A lot of people I know have questions around kind of like drop dead deadlines of when is that final date that I need to let vendors know my guest count, whether it's a caterer or rentals or something like that. Your vendors are very prepared to be very nimble right in this moment. We understand that the number is probably going to change multiple times before we actually get to your end date. Typically around 10 days, 2 weeks out-ish or so is that final window. So you know what, even if you're waiting until that very last order that happens just a couple of weeks before your wedding date, we hope that you can have more people too. So we're ready to adjust, you know, alongside you. And finally, just super quick, I want to talk about Hugh. If there is anything at all that we can do for you to help provide, you know, that peace of mind, help give you the most up-to-date information. We provide everything from full service planning down to what we call wedding management, just being on site for you that day, tying up those final details in the final month of service for you. And, you know, just making sure everything runs smoothly. This has, I'm sure, been a crazy and sometimes stressful process. And if there is anything that we can do to help make the rest of it smooth sailing, provide that peace of mind, be, you know, the expert that you need, we'd love to be considered to be a part of your vendor team. So that is everything that I have on my front. And, you know, with guest count being such a big question for people, you know, we may need to keep in mind that some of your guests may not choose to come or aren't able to come. And I would love to throw it over to Geoffrey to talk about the world of hybrid events.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. So I don't have as many slides as, well, I don't have as much to talk about because really what I have to talk about is just kind of making sure that if your numbers aren't what you want them to be, or if there's people that cannot travel in or don't feel safe traveling in, then you do have the option to go with what we call a hybrid event. So a hybrid event is basically people that are in person, but also people that are watching on a live stream, on a Zoom, on some other amazing software that we have available that can make it look really cool and kind of make it look more like a wedding. And then Korrine, I'm sure, is going to talk about more of the kind of those experiences that the people that are at home that are attending your wedding at home or from home or not physically there can partake in. So I'm not going to dive deep into that. I'm not the kind of the planning and the that part of it, but the technology is there, right? And the option of a hybrid gives you a lot more flexibility because as you are trying to come up with that final number, the what if, right? I heard that a lot from all of you really is we don't know how many people we're able to have. So any planner will tell you that, you know, try and plan for every different option, have an A list, a B list, and a C list. And if things open up in, you know, for your August wedding or your September wedding or your November wedding or even the May wedding, if they open up just incredibly more than you thought, be able to have that option to be able to have those people there. But there are going to be some people that don't feel comfortable being there. So having a really good option for being able to have those people experience your day. You can still keep the date of the venue, adjust your in-person count for whatever you want by having that virtual element as well. There are definitely ways that your virtual guests can feel connected to the wedding. You can interact with them. There could be like a two-way Zoom type thing. You can have a camera on for the ceremony. You can have a camera at the event. There's even virtual photo booths now, so your guests can have the kind of the same fun photo booth experience that your in-person guests are having. Basically, there's just great technology, right, to be able to help. I am going to share a story that I wasn't planning on sharing, But it just happened recently. 2 days ago, my family buried my brother-in-law. He passed suddenly last week, and it was super sad. And we're all reeling from that still. But the story is that I reached out to the funeral home because I run a production company and I have incredible equipment to be able to do the technology, the Zoom, for the people that couldn't fly in, the people that couldn't be there. And we had a limitation. We only had 50 people that were allowed to be in the church for the funeral. I reached out to them and they said, yep, we do this all the time. We have a camera and we have a microphone and everybody's going to be able to watch from home. And because I was, kind of in that reeling and they just assured me that it was going to be okay, I didn't take a step further and I didn't say, can you show me some footage? Can you show me what some of the other funerals that you've done look like so I can see and I can make sure that it's okay? I'm kicking myself that I didn't do that because it just wasn't good. They had a small little webcam on a tripod with a little microphone that was on a chair halfway down on the side wall of the church. People that were at home couldn't hear, they couldn't see it very well at all. They really had no idea. And they weren't able to experience the way that they should have. So again, I'm kicking myself that I didn't do it. But if your venue or if a photographer, or if someone tells you that they have the good technology to be able to do something like that to help you, just take it one step further. That's my advice to you, just from my experience. Ask to see one that they've done in the past. Ask to see some footage of one just to make sure that it's going to be a good experience for your guests. So didn't mean to share that sad story with you, but it was just recent and it was just something that just happened to us. So in a live world, we have amazing DJs. We have incredible photo booths. As I mentioned, you could do a virtual photo booth. We have that technology now. We do amazing lighting for any type venue, any type of lighting, full event production as well, outdoor screens. This is going to be a big thing, I think, this summer, as a lot of people want to have a bigger wedding. You can have more people outside, as we've talked about, and Sarah mentioned in her presentation, and you saw those numbers. In the middle of the day, you can't show a video because you typically can't use a projector and a screen in the middle of the day outside. So we have this technology like this screen right here and this screen right here where you can see it during the day outside. So outside daytime video. Themed events, we can help with all of that. Some people do add a couple casino tables for their cocktail hour. And then of course the virtual stuff as well. So like I said, hopefully I didn't take too much time and you guys were able to get some information from me on that. And I'm obviously able to answer any questions when we're done. So I'm going to turn it over to Korrine. Hey, Korrine.
Hi, thank you. So it's my turn to share screen, right?
Yes.
I'll make sure that I do everything appropriately.
You do it perfect.
All right. So I'm sure part of the reason why everybody's here, right, is to help hopefully answer some of the following questions, or some of the information following will help to answer and guide you in the direction that that's best fit for you. So there's three sort of high level points that I would love you to be able to walk away with today, taking something from each of these areas, if you will. It's making the decision and moving forward, and then considerations for guests and developing a creative event, which was nice and fun to hear that everybody seemed to have some questions in those areas. So again, hopefully what will come before you will help give you some direction. So when making decisions, my top suggestion to everybody, no matter whether it's during COVID or a pandemic or not, it's to find a couple of top focuses. There are so many decisions that can be made, that are meant to be made in planning, and find those couple things that are your non-negotiables that you stick to help guide you in the rest of the decision making. So if any of you are in the place right now of, which it sounds like, some of you are, of, am I going to be moving forward, but with fewer people? Am I going to potentially consider adjusting my dates, postponing? Am I gonna, make some other decision of smaller event now, larger event later? Again, figure out what your couple of top focuses are, and really make sure to do your best to hone in on those. There are feelings to be felt during this, and that's okay. It's meant to be super exciting. It can be very frustrating, again, pandemic or not. Now, unfortunately, you have these extra layers in there. So take a minute, feel those things, and then again, bring your focus back to what those, two focuses are for decision making. Keeping the sight on what's important. I'm sure plenty of you have heard this, and I'm just here to reiterate it. Again, many years in the industry and being a part of, hundreds, thousands of events. Why is this event happening? Make sure that that's part of that daily reminder, just to keep that motivation moving in the right direction. And again, as many will say, that everything happens for a reason. Sincerely, at the end of every event that I've ever had to make an adjustment in, I go, oh, that's why it's adjusted. That's why that change was before us. So just know that through lots of experience that there is a reason behind it. A lot of you had mentioned, guest comfortability and safety and so on and so forth. And, how do you help them to feel most comfortable? So, things to be considered, of course, in all of this deciding is everybody has schedules. Most of us are quite busy. So when trying to decide what you're doing, and this will come out in a little bit, but communicate the best you can. Find ways of sharing your information as it's kind of on the table, if you will. Some folks are going to have work-related travel restrictions, so that might be something, in consideration to those top focuses. And if a top focus is, what, I want to move forward, we want to move forward with this event, and we want to make sure that we're surrounded by all of the initial loved ones that are supposed to be there. Well, to me, that might guide you in a direction of, okay, well, we're not, because of that, we're going to give it all some more time. So maybe we're going to look to be planning, farther down the road. If you're comfortable with the place of whoever, like, we want this date, we're going to move forward with this date, and whomever is able to attend or whoever we're allowed to have there is what we're going to stick to, or what we're comfortable with, then that helps, in that sort of decision making. Travel itself, some folks might be traveling out of state or cross country or what have you. So that's something, a part of all that. And then the proper precautions at the event, the, custom masks, sanitizer as a little favor, those types of things could be introduced as well to kind of help, I guess, provide that extra comfort for guests. So as I had mentioned, communication is key. One of the things that I assume to be the most frustrating for all of you is the uncertainty, not knowing what you can do, how you can do it, when you can do it. So likewise, it's going to be for your guests as well. Again, no matter what you're choosing to do, and those choices do need to be made, on what's best for the two of you. Just make sure, again, you're communicating that, and you're communicating that early and clear, and with as much, as many specifics as possible. So websites are a big thing these days in weddings, or for weddings. Create one and make use of it. Have your, is it weekly or bi-weekly or monthly update on there, just to keep the conversation rolling. When you get to the point of doing your invitations, make sure those are nice and detailed. And when I say nice and detailed, I'm thinking of it, but from a perspective of, all right, I've received this invite. I've been asked to come to this event. What are the things that I want to know? I might want to know, how many guests are coming? What's the flow of the events? Like what am I meant to be participating in? Is it just a ceremony? Is that ceremony outside? Is it ceremony, cocktail, dinner, no dancing afterwards? Is it the whole kit and caboodle? Relaying those details in the forefront are going to help them feel more safe, more comfortable with the decision. So give them as much information as you possibly can. Maybe what you're doing in that emailing is gathering everybody's emails so that, again, you can send out that, couple week prior email just to say, we're excited to have you. Here's where things stand. This is where we're at. So being transparent and doing what you can to offer them some certainty in what choices you're making for your event will help them to feel more comfortable about the choice that they're making. I will just offer on that too, that some of you had brought up previously. Everybody right now is got a different perspective on COVID and the pandemic and how they're approaching it. Some are very, very conservative and cautious and don't want to be, out in public or in crowds. Others are at that exhaustion place that they don't really care anymore. And, let's get back to the bars. Right, Jeff? Plenty of others, I'm sure, somewhere in between. So again, as you're making decisions moving forward, know that it is okay for you to be making decisions for the two of you. And again, why you're here, why you're planning this event. Just communicating back to them what your choices are, and then they get to make their decisions for themselves. So we'll move into, creativity at events. How do you actually now build this event so that you can feel like it's not the pandemic overshadowed experience, so that you can have some fun and creativity with it. Your guests have a good, takeaway. So a few things that I've marked down, event flow. We have been sort of inundated with, you've got to have a ceremony, and then you have a cocktail hour, and then you have a dinner, and then you have a dance. Nobody's here to say that has to be the case. So, explore that a little bit. What makes sense for all of you? Again, no matter when an event is being planned, I think that the most successful events are those that are focused on purpose or theme. So really hone in on that in every way you can, personalizing it. If, for example, I had a few years ago, they met rowing. And so the whole event took a little bit of a rowing, undertone. And it was a great way to really customize that experience, not only for themselves, but for their guests, so that everybody walked away knowing that, that was an evening to celebrate the two of them. So that sort of overarching comment or note is what's meant to carry you through in all these other decisions, in my opinion. Meaning event flow, for example, if you're really into food and you want a great dinner, maybe then the night becomes focused more on that. It's this longer dinner experience. There's these beautiful menus that are created, really spelling out what's before then. You're spending some time and attention in building that dinner setting, quite frankly. There's a charger and a couple of plates and, too many forks and all of that good stuff. If, it's dancing, if that party component is something that's of focus or priority for you, maybe we set up the room a little bit different, rather than one giant dance floor in the middle, maybe there's multiple dance floors throughout the area, just to, again, create some comfort and bring about a different experience and not losing things completely. If it's just time together, great conversation, then you build your event from a layout standpoint with areas to encourage that, whether it be soft seating, groupings, and things along those lines. Different entertainment, Jeff touched on this a little bit through some of his slides, but maybe there's no dancing, or maybe what you've decided to do is bring everybody together for ceremony dinner, and now it's just like wedding party that stays for dancing. And again, some of those decisions might be made based on, you know, what the health department is telling us. Maybe we forego that kind of concept again, and it's more of a concert. Do you spend some money bringing in a really hot band to keep everybody entertained? Is there a comedy show? You know, again, find a way that it can pull back to the two of you and who you are, and what this event is all about. You'll see the staggered times or experiences. You know, maybe it's a week-long event, or maybe it's a weekend event. So maybe because of mandates, you're able to have everybody together for ceremony, and so you do that. But now, from an eating perspective, you can't have everybody for dinner. So you do, you know, brunch with grandparents and the older crowd, and you come, you know, later in the day, and you do the younger crew or whomever is appropriate for, you know, that nighttime. Maybe it's a brunch the next day, so that, again, you're creating an experience that can include as many people as possible, but that doesn't mean it has to be all at once, right? The mailed gift boxes, that speaks a little bit to what Jeff was sharing in regards to the hybrid experience. If you know that guests aren't going to be coming to the event, but they do still, in the physical, I should say, but they still want to attend in the virtual sense, well, maybe now what you've done is you've created a nice little gift box that's mailed to them, and it's going to have the fixings for your signature cocktail, or, you know, something in an edible format, or again, if there's some sort of, you know, personal connection for the two of you, if it's, you know, like how we met over trivia, or like in our free time in the year of 2020, we learned how to play cribbage, and so now we're sending a cribbage board, or, you know, bingo, or just have some fun with it, and be fluid, as you already have been. I'm here to, you know, sort of fill that bucket a little bit if I can, in regards to maintaining patience and fluidity in how you're going about all these decisions. I'm trying to watch all of you and my slides at the same time. So moving things around here a little bit, but event layout. What I have on here is some points of interest in regards to, now you've made the decision to move forward, what things you need to consider in the vein of like spacing, right? Well, previously, prior COVID, the industry average per person, square footage per person was 15 square feet. If you were to think about this in the most basic terms, you need a 6-foot radius for every individual. Now you're looking at 36 square feet a person. So if you're coming to a scenario where, again, just like throwing out examples, you've got a 60 by 80 foot room, where at that 15 square foot per person spacing, you could have had 320 guests. New COVID distancing scenario, you're down to 133. So you've cut that, you know, in more than half. So those are things to consider when you're choosing to lay out a space, and also, you know, equipment wise might come into that scenario. And when I say equipment, rentals and so forth. Fewer touch points, back to that, you know, guest comfort. Try to find ways that there are fewer touch points for those guests. Small little example, you know, a guest book, no longer with a pen that every single person is intended to pick up and use. Maybe it's back to what Jeff has mentioned, this virtual photo booth. You know, is it a QR code that you've got framed, and that sends them, you know, to an appropriate site that they can leave you personalized messages, and now you've got that to take away. Multiple dance floors, already mentioned that. Table size, shape, arrangements, those are things that you can have some fun with as well. Nobody says that room has to be laid out in all round tables or all rectangular tables. I'm sure Many of you have heard the conversation of, as far as doing your seating chart, maybe it's by household or family. So have some fun there, get creative. Hybrid events do work, so keep that in mind. We've got Celebrations Entertainment to help you out there. Next few slides here are just gonna, give you some visuals, because who doesn't like visuals, to go along with some of this dialogue. Again, areas in which you can have fun and get creative. Food service, that's going to be a big decision to be had, right? Are you going to serve a buffet? Are you allowed to serve a buffet? Is it a plated sit-down dinner? Is it more of that heavy appetizer or hors d'oeuvres type arrangement? But it's all done in individual, boxed or plated bite sizes. You'll see that tray of drinks, rather than having a bar where everybody goes up to a bar. Have you now created an event where you have sort of like home bases or hubs for everybody that's come, and you are sending around servers and doing some table service just to help, with the COVID conscious, socially distanced conscious scenarios. Creativity in the PPE. We all are very, very familiar with masks. Of course, you can have those, monogrammed or customized. Maybe that's an area where you pull in some loved ones because they are avid sewers and they want to, help do something. So now you've delegated that task to them. If you haven't already seen it, this, guest indicator of comfortableness is another way of helping everybody sort of set expectations from a visual standpoint. So if you're recognizing, whether it be armbands or maybe it's a pin that goes on a shirt, you set at entry points, grab a band that feels most comfortable to you, whether it be, please don't, get within my bubble, to I'm fine so long as we're wearing masks and, elbow touching, to, again, please give me a hug because I'm just, my bucket's empty and I'm ready to move forward. So those are ways that you can help them feel a little bit more comfortable, safe. Creativity in the layout and furniture. Again, so much opportunity, no matter when. Nobody says that ceremony needs to be all folding chairs lined up in a row, right? Bring in some furniture, set out some benches, create these pods for folks that will be comfortable with one another. Same thing will go for that floor plan, that layout within, your reception, however you choose to do it. This image on the left gives you an idea of what it could be if you're not going to do like a full sit-down dinner. Maybe there's some furniture groupings. You've got some tall cocktail tables with stools. You've got some low tables with chairs. But again, you're playing with the variety of table shape and size. You've got a 48-inch round, a 60-inch round, a 8-foot table, right? That will instantly give your space some more warmth and a little bit of diversity. Again, kind of in the same vein or along the same line, creativity with the tables. Nobody says they have to be those rounds. So, this one image on the right showcases a smaller table that's more of a restaurant style, right? So that guests can come and sit in their, their small hub. I'll just take a minute, and I'm almost through, guys, so I appreciate you bearing with me. I'll take a minute to speak to event essentials and event rental equipment. We also have a boutique division, all of crate rentals. Websites are there. But what we're doing to help in this vein or decisions, as Sarah was saying, we're all trying to do our best to be nimble. We are asking where it once may have been a 50% deposit for a reservation. We've bumped that down to 25%. We have started building on the mindset that we do know enough now about the pandemic. And so therefore, if we're making a commitment with one another, because we're still running a business, 25% to reserve. 90 days prior, we're hoping that that has given you a little bit more certainty in your choices. We'll ask for another 25%, and then 2 weeks prior is where we'll ask for the remaining 50% and that final guest count. All of those deposits are non-refundable. So once paid forward, again, non-refundable. However, in the event that you do need to make some changes, we'll allow or provide that money down as a store credit held for 1 year from your original event date. So again, in efforts to help everybody, you know, through all of the decision making. I'll just wrap up by saying, guys, do your best to enjoy. It's stressful as it is. You layer all these other things on top, it's even more stressful. So just really, really do what you can to keep bringing back to, you know, why you're doing it. It is meant to